My name is Robin Butler and I'm a partner at Sturgeon Capital Limited. So I had a bit of a sort of roundabout route ending up as an investor at Sturgeon Capital. Before joining Sturgeon, I was living in Iran for nearly a year learning Farsi. And at the time, this was when the sanctions had been lifted. And so Sturgeon was investing in the country at the time. I joined them sort of when I got back to the UK and have been there since. So a slightly different background, perhaps. So Sturgeon Capital, we invest across a range of different frontier and emerging markets, and it's obviously a fairly broad universe, but our focus is on those countries which are still at an early stage of their digital transformation. So kind of you have smartphone and internet penetration has hit a critical point, but there's still a lot of inefficiencies in the economy, both for businesses and consumers. So we invest in Central Asia, South Asia, the Middle East, Eastern Europe as well. We've been very active in Uzbekistan, as well as Kazakhstan, and more recently been looking at the Pakistani market. So I came for the first time in January. This is my second trip. January was more about meeting as many people as possible, and had a pretty hectic kind of 10 days here, which was excellent. Got a much better understanding of what's going on. This trip's been more about spending kind of more time with fewer people, kind of digging more into business models, trying to understand a few more of the market dynamics as we look to make a few more investments here. We're actually shareholders in KTrade and have been for a while, and at the same time we're now looking at a few other companies to invest in. So I think kind of a combination of in-person and online meetings. I think I've spoken now to maybe 50, 60 companies here in Pakistan, and I think it's on the front page of everyone's presentation. 220 million people, and I think it's undeniably a huge opportunity across multiple different verticals, multiple different sectors. Particularly, I think, one of the hot areas, and this is not to sort of say anything particularly out of the ordinary, but within fintech, both for consumers and also for businesses. I think there's also a lot of opportunities within edtech, health tech, and agri-tech as well. I think if you look at the sort of stage where Pakistan is, now is really the time to be building a lot of the kind of infrastructure, the kind of back end, whether it's payment rails, logistics, these sorts of things, which ultimately will be the enabler of the future successful startups. So that's a particular area that we're looking at and that we are interested in making investments in. So I think if you look at the Pakistan market today, it's very similar to a lot of other kind of frontier and emerging markets in terms of the dynamics, both within the startup sector, but also if you look at the macro and the political as well. I think perhaps unlike somewhere like the US or Western Europe, where there's generally, for the most part, a kind of a greater reliability in terms of the economic and political situation. Pakistan, like other markets, tends to have more fluctuations in that sense, and I think it depends what your time horizon is as to how you feel about that. For us, investing in Pakistan and similar markets is a 10 to 20 year play. This is why we come to these countries and why we actually come and spend time on the ground meeting people. I think there are certain kind of investors that don't want to do that kind of due diligence. They get excited maybe about the high level numbers, and then when something potentially goes wrong, which it does in these countries, it doesn't change the kind of fundamentals and the opportunity. It's just a reality of operating here. That when that happens, that potentially they kind of pull out of the markets. That's not our approach. I think we're very much here for the long term. In here, other countries like Egypt, Bangladesh, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, they are fundamentally higher risk, but I think, and certainly our view is, and our investors' view is, that it presents a much greater opportunity and for us as investors to make outsized returns, but I think also to deliver a kind of a far greater impact on people's lives as well. So I think what makes Pakistan so exciting is, despite the challenges you have, and I think in some cases because of the challenges you have and that you face, the size of the problems to be solved and to be addressed, whether that's the inefficiencies or the just sheer lack of availability financial services being a very good example of that, creates a huge opportunity for startups, whether they're sort of pure software or software and hardware based, to fundamentally change the lives of the people that they're providing a solution to, and that really is that's really what gets us excited, and why we're looking forward to making more investments here in Pakistan.